Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, here we are again, another week of Kendo Rant, and you sent in these fantastic questions, which I'll jump to in just a moment, just before I've told you to like, share, subscribe, you know, all that stuff. It's important though, because that's what really does help, not just the channel grow, but you could be helping people start Kendo. I get messages every day from people telling me that they started Kendo after seeing one of the videos on this very channel. So the more you share it, spread it around, tell your friends, like all the stuff that YouTube likes, the more chance we've got of somebody that doesn't yet do Kendo seeing one of these videos, maybe not the specific one, but a similar one, or, you know, one of the instructional videos, introducing them to Kendo, and we get a new Kendoka into the community. So that can definitely help by doing that. But as well, if you really do like these videos, you really want to keep the camera rolling, keep these videos coming. I've got more coming soon as well. I've got loads of cool projects coming for 2022. You support the channel by shopping at kendostar.com. That's my website, of course, that sells amazing, fantastic, brilliant Kendo equipment. I'm sure you know already, but what are you doing if you haven't shopped there? Come on, of course you shop there. What am I saying? Everyone shops at Kendo Star. It's like by far the most popular site. So get to kendostar.com. Okay, let's look at these questions. Right, first one. This one came to me in a private message, actually. This one says, "Hi Andy, Happy New Year to you and yours. Thank you very much. I'm just about to leave for Keiko, and I've been thinking a lot about Ichigan, Nisoku, Santan, Shiriki. I'd really like to hear your take on it, as to how you teach it, or what you do. What do these four represent to you? The official guide is quite brief on this. Thanks." All right, so this sort of phrase, Ichigan, Nisoku, Santan, Shiriki, it's not one of the more popular Kendo-like phrases or idioms or whatever you want to say. Let's start by looking in the official guide for Kendo instruction at what that says about it. Now, I think it only really lists it, like you say, briefly in the glossary at the back. It's there. Okay, and it says Ichigan, Nisoku, Santan, Shiriki, a phrase which presents four elements essential for Kendo training in order of their importance. The first of these elements is the functioning of the eyes. So that's the Ichigan. So number one is eyes. The second is footwork. That's the Nisoku. The third is a strong mind, not upset by anything. That's your Santan. And the fourth is a bold waza and the physical strength to execute such waza, Shiriki. See Ashisabaki and Metsuke. Okay, so as I say, it's not a super common turn of phrase in Kendo, in all honesty. I don't think I ever heard anyone say it whilst I lived in Japan. It's not the sort of thing that they would be sort of lecturing or teaching on. Now, that's not to say it's not important or anything like that, but it's when you say as how I teach it, I don't teach it. It's not something that, like in you know, Kendo classes I teach or seminars that I teach at, I don't generally say, like, right, today we're going to learn about Ichigan, Nisoku, Santan, Shiriki so much, because I think it is a little bit vague. But look, let's break it down. Ichigan is the eyes. Okay, first is eyes, or looking. So watching your opponent. Metsuke, all right? So, of course, you can't do anything with regards to Kendo training or interacting with your opponent without looking, without using your eyes. Okay, so that's the first part, right? You judge your distance, check the chance for the strike, check your own kamae, your own movements. All of these are using your eyes, right? That's the first step. Makes sense. Second, nisoku, so footwork, ashisabaki. So this is to say that all of Kendo movements are performed not with the feet, but the footwork is of sort of paramount importance in the movements that you're making in your Kendo movements. And I said movements twice in that sentence, but yeah, it's not just swinging and trying to hit. You have to focus on your footwork. So once the number one, check that you're observing everything correctly. You have metsuge, you have good understanding of everything that's happening in a more kind of combat type situation, keiko, shiai. Obviously, you're watching the opponent. It's super important as well because lots of people just attack or throw out waza with no regard to what's happening with the opponent. You have to watch the opponent. Then too, when you make your movements, you have to make them with correct footwork, and that links, of course, to body movement. All right, it's not just hitting with the shinai, but moving the body properly using ashisabaki, using the footwork. Then number 3, santan. So that's having the strong will or the strong mind, so that you aren't easily broken by your opponent's pressure, seme, and you have the intention to make good quality strikes. And that doesn't necessarily mean in tachiai, the combat situation. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to mean, it does mean as well, but it doesn't have to mean during the jigeko or shiai or whatever. But even in your training, all right? Even in your training, okay, kirikaishi, have to do big spirit, don't break my mind and do lazily, even though that's easier. Or make sure when I'm doing my kihon uchi, my men strikes or whatever, your basic kihon practice, that you are focusing without being lazy or wavering from trying to improve with each strike and making each strike a perfect ippon. This is all about having that unbreakable mind. And then 4, probably the easiest one to misinterpret, is Riki. So for Riki means power, but it says physical strength, and that's because your kendo strikes have to be powerful. Your seme has to be powerful. So, but that doesn't mean you are bashing or smashing away at your opponent. And you'll notice that's number 4. So you have to have done all the other 3 before you sort of care about number 4. So, it's not just about bashing and smashing away with the shinai, but making sure you make the strikes that are bold. So both with powerful, strong seme and intention, but also with impact, strong physical impact, but obviously with using the correct technique. And obviously it all makes sense and that's all good, but I think it's quite easy to see why it's not a super common teaching sort of what can I say, like a phrase used in teaching that much, because it is quite open to misinterpretation or overinterpretation, or I'm not saying I've definitely interpreted it right. I'm just really trying to stick as close as I can to what's written in that book, but I wouldn't, okay, that's for me in my sort of Kendo universe in my brain. If I hear about that phrase, I read it, okay, yeah, that makes sense, and then probably that's not the phrase for me. This is just personal, I guess, that I'm going to be like, wow, okay, that's really changed the way I think about Kendo, because to be honest, it's pretty straightforward, pretty normal stuff, and it's not something that I want to kind of, I'd rather, if I wanted to teach about some kind of concept like that in Kendo, I'd probably, to my students or something, I'd probably think, okay, right, today I think we need to talk a little bit more about Zanshin or Kikentai no Ichi, rather than your sort of, what was it, Ichigan, Nisoku, Santan, Shiriki, yeah? But that's just me, maybe. Okay, next one. I've been told in the past that you want your Shiai Kendo to match your Shinsa Kendo. I'm having a hard time rectifying the both of them. I see tons of very strong Kendoka that have very different styles for each. How important is this concept? Should this be a focus in an overall sense? Do you have any strong Kendoka in mind who I could watch that don't change styles in Taikai and testing? Right, this is a very interesting question. I think it's a super misunderstood topic, in my opinion. I don't use the word Shiai Kendo, Shinsa Kendo. Right? I don't use those words. There's Kendo, right? This is how I think about it. There's Kendo. And you can do Kendo well, you can do it not so well, you can do it effectively, you can do it beautifully, you can do it not so beautifully. Okay? Now for me, in my opinion, the best, I'm not going to drop names necessarily on people, but I think if you watch a lot of the All Japan level players, I don't think that the style of their Kendo is different in their championships as to it is in their gradings, and their grading videos are online as well. And I'm talking about when they're going for like 6th Dan or 7th Dan. Of course, though, their strategy and tactics are different, right? Their strategy and tactics are different, but the overall Kendo that they do is not different. That's why you can easily tell it's them, in the grading. Even though they're not wearing a zekken or any other thing that indicates who they are, they're still doing their Kendo, but they have a different goal in the tachiai. The tachiai is the match between them and the other person, and they have a different strategy. Okay, because they don't need to in the shiai, they have to score 2 points. They have to make 2 yuko datotsu before the opponent makes yuko datotsu on them, and they have to avoid receiving the yuko datotsu. That's the goal of the shiai, in a way. That doesn't detract from it. That doesn't make it wrong, because as I've said before, one of the things that I think people really misunderstand is they'll sort of diss Shiai Kendo and be like, oh, well, it encourages blocking. Blocking is in this book, How to Block, by the way. It's like in the book, yeah? So it's not wrong to block. And it's wrong even to say you shouldn't block in the grading, but it's just easy to misunderstand how you're supposed to block in the grading. So it's probably better to think don't block in the grading. All right, so don't go too far with that, what I just said. I'll come back to that in a minute, but it's, in the Shiai is the only place in Kendo where you really experience the closest thing to Shinken Shobut, like a real match, a real interaction where there's instantaneous consequences. So it's one of the reasons it's such an important element of Kendo, the Kendo journey. Whereas Shinsai is different. Shinsai's grading, of course. Shinsai is you don't have to avoid receiving the yuko datotsu. You have to try to make the yuko datotsu, but it's not as big a deal about trying to avoid receiving the yuko datotsu. Okay. Having said that, you can't just stand there and receive uchikomi, because then you're going to look like you don't know what you're doing, or not what you're doing, but you're not like putting any effort in. So it's not like that either. But like if you lose the yuko datotsu, if the opponent, yuko datotsu is valid strike, by the way. If the opponent makes the valid strike on you in the grading, you don't necessarily fail. It's whereas in the Shiai, you probably, if they make 2 valid strikes on you, then you lose. So it's just a different strategy. you'll find that a lot of people misunderstand what's happening in Shiai, even high-level Shiai. A lot of people look at relatively low-level Shiai from Japan, like with kids doing Shiai, like high school kids. And it might be quite high-level for high school kids, but it's still not like all Japan level Shiai. And, you know, misinterpret what they're seeing, because after a strike is made, they might move this way to avoid a counter-strike, which you don't have to do in the Shinsa, right? And, you know, people look at that and misinterpret it and be like, oh, look, they just breaking the posture. But actually, the moment of the strike, usually they're not breaking the posture. It happens afterwards as a way of avoidance, which is perfectly fine in the Shiai context especially. The fact of the matter is, my belief is that correct Kendo is the most effective Kendo in Shiai. That's why the best Shiaisha, the Shiai players, all tend to be or end up as very high graded Kendoka as well. So I honestly think that it's just a difference in strategy. Now, going back to what I said a minute ago, because I don't want it to be misunderstood about the blocking thing, is it's best not to block in gradings if you can help it, because you should be trying to make Yuko Datotsu rather than trying to avoid receiving Yuko Datotsu. However, you know, that isn't to say that if you, if you, especially in higher level gradings, that you can't deflect the opponent's strike because their seme wasn't good enough. You're not going to just let them strike you. If you know, because their semi wasn't good enough, whatever, you know, it's okay to destroy their technique and then maybe like make the atoichi or strike afterwards or something like that, as long as it's all in the confines of correct action. You're not just you shouldn't instantly fail just because you defend the technique. However, having said that, the ideal situation, of course, is that you are already a step ahead of that, and if their semi is not effective, rather than blocked, you're able to perform some kind of ojiwaza or debanawaza or something like that. So that's why it's best not to sort of block in the Shinsa, because it kind of does show that you're not sort of prepared for the attack from the opponent. However, that happens because everyone's human, right? And none of us are grading for 10th dan, right? We're not trying to, you know, everyone's going to have a situation where the opponent made the attack when you weren't quite ready. So rather than just letting them hit you, you know, even if you have to defend, and I'm not talking like this kind of defense, I'm talking about the defense that's written in the here, and then make the instant atoichi or strike afterwards. I don't think most grading panels are going to be like, oh, he didn't do the ojiwaza, so fail, you know. So, you know, there's just, I think we just got to be a bit careful with, and ranting, this is Kendo rant, well away from the question topic, I understand that, but I think it's very easy for people, and this, like, to just go too far with some of the way they interpret, oh, that's Shiai Kendo, that's ugly Shiai Kendo, oh, that's in a grading, you should never step back, you should never block. You know, it's like, well, it's not really that black and white. You know, what you should do is really demonstrate good Kendo in both areas, and you'll be successful in both areas, is what I think. All right, so I don't think there should be a hard barrier between, right, today I'm going to do my Shiai Kendo, you know. I just don't think it works like that. Could be wrong, though. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. Andy, thank you for posting the Doorwaza study guide. No problem. Can you talk a little bit about door strikes and taller players? Maybe what to focus on in overcoming the heights, sometimes significant distance. Thank you. So, door strikes and taller players. I'm not sure if you mean like if you're a taller person, you're going to hit door, or if you're trying to hit door on a taller person. But it doesn't matter so much either way. If you're trying to hit door on a taller person, it's really mainly just a difference of adjusting the height of your arms as you make the strike, same as with any other strike. And with if you're a taller person trying to make a door strike on a shorter person, then it's about your center of balance, and you know, adjusting your height, And if you just do it with your arms, you're going to kind of end up like hitting sort of like this, which is going to be rubbish. So instead, you can sort of drop your weight a little bit, right, as you make the door strike. You can make the door strike sort of, I know I'm not on the camera really, but I don't have a great deal of space. But instead of making the door strike just at this height, I can drop my weight as I make the door strike, right? And that's the best way to do it. Okay. Even with a significant height difference, you'll find that the height of the door only changes by a sort of handful of centimeters, because you've got quite a big target zone as well, right? So I think the best thing is just by adjusting your central weight balance, and also you will have to adjust the way you use your hands as well, of course. And I think the other thing is, don't get too tied up on this door. The door has to be a exact 45-degree angle, because that's not, that's just the guidelines, all right? The guidelines. You have to hit the target, all right? So if it's more, a little bit more towards the horizontal side, as long as the strike's good and you're on target, and the hasuji, that's the direction of the shinai, all right? So whether it's turned in the right direction or not, is correct, then it's perfectly valid, okay? Next one. Hi Andy, I saw the kurenai set and it looks interesting. Is the kendogi made of cotton or synthetic material like the kachi? If it's synthetic, how should it be washed? I generally just put the kachi in the washing machine and tumble dry it, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea for this one. The new kachi, let me grab it so you can see. Oof, okay, I'm back. So this is my kachi uniform. This is the prototype model, the one I first made as a test set. So the only difference is exactly the same as the product. The only difference is, I'm just going to tell you now so no one spots it and sort of says anything, is the tag. We use the old tag from the Kioi on this this sample for me to try out. It was before we made the red ones, all right? So when you buy one of these, it's got the KS tag there is red instead of silver like that, to fit in with the whole theme of the branding on the hakama. But I've got the kendogi here. I've got my wonderful kachi hakama here. So not kachi, sorry, kurenai hakama there. Such an awesome hakama. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But about the kendogi, let me tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to make a proper video about this, but I'm not sure if you can see. Is it coming up? It's a cotton kendogi, all right? It's 100% cotton. It's like a single layer weave kendogi. It's got a traditional look, so it looks like your sort of traditional kendogi. It's great if you want to do gradings and stuff like that, but it looks great for shiai as well. This is going to be my sort of shiai type one. And one of the things I've always found with single layer kendogis is I like the lightness of a single layer kendogi, especially when I want a cotton kendogi. Double layer ones, they're a little bit heavy for my personal tastes, but I've always found they're a little bit rough on my skin. Now, as you've probably seen, I'm a bit ginger, so I've got quite sensitive skin. So I've always found them a little bit rough on it. So what we've done with this is we've got this really soft synthetic mesh as a lining for it. I think you can see it. Now I'm gonna make a proper video, right? But it's just really super soft and it just takes that edge off the fabric. So it is a cotton kendogi though. So the outside is izome cotton. So things to bear in mind is you're gonna have to wash it by hand, like the video. Don't put it in your washing machine. You're gonna have a bad day if you do that. All right, you're gonna have to wash it by hand, like the how to wash a kendogi video. All right. And second, it's izome dyed, all right? So it looks brilliant because it's that traditional dye, but it does rub off at first, all right? So when you get it brand new, you might want to just give it a hand wash once or twice before you use it, just to try and wash out some of the additional dye, but it will stain your blue a little bit for the first few uses, all right? And the second thing I'm just going to show you is the actual hakama, and it's hard to see on this because of the lighting and everything, but this is a cotton hakama as well, but it's a lightweight cotton. It's a really lightweight cotton hakama. It looks awesome because it looks like a traditional sort of cotton hakama, but it's quite a lot lighter. It is 100% cotton. It's fully izome dyed, so it's got the look. Yeah. Now the problem is, in the past up to now, with the lighter weight cotton hakama, is they lose the pleats. Well, not anymore, because I don't know if you can see on here, but see if I can get it on the camera there. I'm not doing a very good job of that. Not doing a very good job of that, but basically it's got the same stitching as the kachi, so it's stitched in the front and on the inside. All right, they've got deeper pleats than normal, so that you've got the pleats just sit perfectly. All right, you're not going to lose the pleats. And I tell you what, the best thing about it is, if you've owned a cotton hakama, you'll know the pain of trying to fold it after practice. Well, not anymore, because with this one, it just falls into place. So it's awesome. But the way you wash it is by hand as well. Same for the Kendogi. Okay, so I hope that helps. I'll make a proper video about them that shows them a bit better. If you look on the product page as well, you'll see photos of what I mean though. But those stitches in the front of the pleats, amazing. It's only cotton hakama like that. Best cotton hakama going, I think. Okay, next one. Is it hot wearing borga in the summer? Well, that's an interesting question. My Kendogi's falling off my desk. That's an interesting question because it really depends where you live, doesn't it? It really depends where you live. I live in the UK, so no, not so much because it's not really hot in the summer anyway. So yeah. But in Japan, for example, it gets really hot in the summer, and it's hot without the borga. So yeah, even with the borga, yeah, it does get a little bit hot. But to be honest, you kind of get used to it. All right, so it's not something that's a major deal. Okay, last one. Here we are. Hi Andy, can you comment on wrist flexibility and tenouchi in the left hand when performing do and sayumen strikes? I find that if I flex too hard, the left hand strays off center, my form is broken. Is there a good middle ground? I've been told to flex or squeeze at the moment of impact. Is that a good habit? Thanks. Okay, so on your left hand, you need wrist flexibility, all right? You really need good wrist flexibility. Let me take my watch off so I can properly show you. So, when you're doing sayumen or do, basically, you want to try and keep your left hand in the middle as much as you can, but it's just a guideline as well. Now, you don't want to be like this, all right? But, of course, as you come this way and squeeze a little bit, it's not going to be dead bob on perfect in the center, perhaps, yeah? But you do need that flexibility in your wrist so that you can, just bump the microphone there, so that you can stretch to make your strike, okay? It does need to flex this way. And as you say, at the moment of impact, here, yeah? Haven't got enough room here, yeah? Men, this way. And same with your door strikes. So you do really need to work on that flexibility so that you can get that twist here. Now, what you'll probably find if you're struggling with it is most people are gripping the shinai wrong when they're trying to do it. Instead of holding it like this, lots of people are just holding it ever so slightly like this. And then, of course, it's impossible to flex your wrist in the right way because your wrist just doesn't work like that. You need this way of flexing. And if you're holding it this way, you've only got this amount, okay? So it has to be lined up properly so that you can flex this way. If you hold it like this, it's not going to happen. And this is what's going to happen when you try to do your kirikaishi, okay? So if you're looking when you're doing your kirikaishi or your sayumen and it's coming off like this, check if you're holding it right. If you're holding it too much like that, or whether you want to be a little bit more round on the shinai there so that your wrist's in the right place so that it can properly flex, okay? This is the direction that it needs to come here, here, here. All right. Takes practice, and yes, I think at the moment of impact, that little squeeze, that little bit of tenouchi, of course, that's a good habit. That's what you need to do to make sure that your strike has the correct impact. Okay, that's it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget to shop at Kendo Star, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye bye.